And good evening, everybody, and welcome to Going Nuclear, full-blown coverage of the land. Ethan Greenberg here, and joining me tonight, we have Jacob joining us again as per the usual during the NFL season, and special guest Heather and Sherry. Heather and Sherry, thank you so much for being here. Hope
Yeah.
all is well. Hope all the there were no technical glitches here.
No.
Are we all good, everybody? Heather, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I've been excited about this today. I've been doing my research, so I'm ready for whatever you throw at me.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. I'm always good. So, all right, Heather, Sherry, why don't you tell everybody, where they can find you, because you guys are famous. You're
Far
everywhere.
from. Far from.
Far
So
from.
much.
Don't be so modest. Tell everybody where they can find you, Sherry.
On X at Browns Fan GURL, and on Instagram is Budgie BUDGIEM. That's my @ on Instagram, which is very different.
Yeah, and what program? You're on all kinds of podcasts. You've got your Breezy Browns talk.
Yes,
Your
tomorrow, which
tomorrow
is
night.
tomorrow's Wednesday, 9:15 p.m.
Yes.
It's gonna be a witchy good time, my friend. Witchy.
Oh, which
I'm having which.
I don't know. And then you're also part of the Bougie Sports.
Right.
Bougie Sports.
And every Friday, I podcast with my co-hostess with the mostest, Lou Marconi, on the Burning Rivers Browns talk. We do that every Friday.
Yes, excellent choice. You even have belching contests. I have judged for myself. It is fantastic. That is good. So you're all over the place there.
Yeah, a little bit of everywhere.
The funny thing is, you're the only one of us who's in Cleveland. Because Heather,
Right.
you're in the C bus area, the 614.
I am all over the place. I like to keep my location secret.
Oh yeah, no doxing her.
Yeah, there's no doxing me because I'm so you can find me only on X, and I just tweeted something out before we got on here. I am only on X. You can only see me on X. I love Buckeyes. I do my Bougie Sports podcast. I'm doing a weekly college pod now. I'm not sure what days we're going to do them on yet, if we're going to do them on Wednesdays or Fridays, but I am only on X. I am not DMing you on Instagram. I am not DMing you on TikTok. I'm not. And I feel really bad because apparently there's several accounts of me going around out there. So whoever yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, right before we got on here, I got bombed with some fake ones. So I am only on. You will only find me on X at Love Buckeyes. So
okay.
All right, that is fair enough. You got to be careful out there. It's a crazy world. I guess I don't know if I should be upset by this. I guess I'm not famous enough to get cloned or anything. And that
you won't. I could do it. I could just I could pull some stuff from your page if you'd like.
Yeah.
All right, Milton. Are you going to burn the building down if you don't get your stapler back?
Probably.
Yes. Where's my stapler? You know what? Let's just burn it down. I mean, it's burning Browns. It's as well. That's a really good segue into going into the Browns, right? Just burn it down.
It is. And actually, that is a great way to kind of jump into the program here. So, this past week, we went from the lows of the lows, kind of. I mean, starting if you want to go back a week, and you want to look at the game that the Browns played against the Bengals, in which Deshaun Watson goes down with an injury, and the backlash afterwards.
Right.
Now, Heather, you were
there.
You were there. Sherry, were you at the game?
I abstained because I am grieving. I am sitting Shiva, and I did not want to be around people, so I left my seats empty. Yeah.
All right. So at that game, Heather, did you, I guess, tell us from inside the stadium what the experience was when Watson went down, just to the best you can from the people around you, the reactions.
So it wasn't the most positive. So we were actually getting food when it happened, and we were walking back to our seat when he was on the ground. And we were in the end zone in the Browns tunnel where they brought him out. So when they were bringing him out, I mean, just candidly, people were swearing. They were calling him a pervert. They were, yeah, it was really ugly. And my stance on it is that regardless of how you feel about him, he's a human being. He's a human being, and you knew, I mean, instantly we were getting text messages. It's his Achilles. We saw the replay because you know, even seeing it live, you couldn't see what happened, but the replays, you know, people were sending it to us. So he was a human being. And so, you know, to hear the cheering, it was a little bit disgusting. It was. And I can understand the frustration. I can understand the frustration and the immense dislike for him, but people were very vocal about how glad they were that he was hurt.
And that's kind of sad. And you know, Jacob, you're too young to have seen this, but we talked about it. This is not the first time that Browns fans have gone a bit angry at a quarterback and cheered at their downfall. As we talked about it last week, but Tim Couch, and Derek Anderson also, you know, went down with injuries, and fans cheered at their demise simply because they weren't happy with their performance on the field. And I'm right there with you, Heather. I think that there is that fine line with cheering or booing a player for their play, and when they're a human being and they have this type of injury and such. So then we proceed through the week. We find out. Go ahead.
That game I was there for. This past Sunday, I was not.
And what, I mean, where you were sitting, how was it? You know, what was?
Well, I was sitting right kind of where he went down on like the 20-yard line.
Right, in the upper deck.
And I saw,
right?
and I was just dumbfounded because he crumbled. Nobody was touching him. There was no play. He wasn't throwing the ball. He just went down. And I, you know, up where I was, I didn't hear, people weren't cheering where I was because I sit with the poors and the visitors. So we kind of all huddled together like, you know, ooh, and there was no cheering. There was no celebrating his injury. It was just shock more than anything. Shock of watching it happen and just what's going to happen. Well, we all knew what was going to happen next. Who are they going to put? DTR, of course. They're going to throw in DTR. But how is the rest of the game going to proceed? What kind of headspace is the rest of the team in after watching their leader go down, like them or not? You know, where does that leave? Where does that leave us? So, again, it was jarring seeing someone get injured, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were watching from home, Jacob and I, and we saw this, and it was like, uh-oh. And they showed the replay, and you saw that the same thing that you've seen throughout. My memorable was watching Aaron Rodgers last year in the opening game and seeing that.
Right.
Yeah.
And the jiggle.
And it from on a personal level, for an athlete and stuff, it certainly does suck. And then to have people, even a few, cheer at that or you might be happy on the inside, like I'd like to move on from this guy, but still, it's a bit much in my mind. We proceed throughout the week. They name Jameis Winston as the starter. DTR had hurt his finger, and they named Jameis the starter. And we don't know what to expect out of this guy. He talks a good game, right?
Sure does.
Yeah.
And he's very entertaining. I mean, we all know his stats. He throws for 30 touchdowns and 30
interceptions. Right. He's a 50-50 or he's a 100-100 mix guy. Yeah.
He absolutely is. And you know he's going to throw it with no fear, right?
Right.
And then we're headed into the game, and the bombshell hits on Saturday afternoon about Jim.
Yeah.
And I mean, even from afar and never having met the man personally, having had Megan on the podcast and getting to know her, and just as a Cleveland sports fan, that was a real bummer.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you were in the stadium on Sunday, Heather. What was I mean, even from watching on TV and everything, it looked a very warm reception. And I mean, it was a lot of talk all week, after, especially after the game,
Mhm.
even for Jim. I mean, kind of what was the feeling for you, before, after, during, after?
Yeah, so it was interesting to me, and not interesting in a puzzling way, but rarely comes along a person that most people have never met, but is so universally loved. You couldn't find anybody who had anything bad to say about him ever. Pittsburgh, just on Twitter, Pittsburgh fans were saying, what a loss it was. Baltimore fans were saying what a loss it was. Even the Baltimore fans were being very respectful while we were at the game. And it was such a paradox, because it was so somber, but it was so celebratory, because it was somber because everybody was just so incredibly sad for his family, for the Browns family, for the fans, but everybody was so, let's win this for Jim. So it was one of those, it was a paradox. It was sad, but it was celebratory. So it was almost like calling hours, in a sense, for the people who couldn't go properly mourn him.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, and what about you, Sherry? I know you weren't at the game, but I mean, Megan.
Yeah, Megan and I are, fairly good friends, and we do text and stuff, and have hung out before. And um, it's any when someone, I mean, she's like myself, like Heather, a daddy's girl. When someone
Yeah.
loses a parent, not unexpected, but how do you prepare yourself for that? And she, unfortunately knew it was coming. And it was, I mean, he put up a brave fight, and to suffer for that long,
Yeah,
he shouldn't. I mean, the relief of him not suffering weighed heavily on me. Was just a relief overall. I understand we lost somebody extremely important to the organization, but him being free of pain and having to go through treatments that are just like,
Horrific. They're horrific.
yeah,
Anybody,
horrific. And
anybody that's seen their parent go through that, there's nothing that can prepare you for it. There is nothing. I speak firsthand. There is nothing that can prepare you for it.
right,
And there's this incredible sense of guilt, because you know that it's going to happen, and it's not that you want it to happen, but you're so overwhelmed with the suffering. So I think heaven got a good one with that man.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And Jacob, again, I turn to you just if you have any thoughts. I mean, as I told you Sunday night about it, or Saturday night, or whenever it happened, because you had a busy weekend last weekend, but you're out celebrating. This guy, homecoming dance. He went to one more high school dance than even I went to in my whole
Nice.
career.
Way to go, man.
In fact, my best friend Griff, who didn't go to my high school, went to one more high school dance at my school than I did during my high school career. But Jacob, we didn't listen a lot to Jim because we watched on TV, but there were some times that we would turn on the sound and listen to Jim and Nathan. And I mean, is there anything you could kind of pull or gather, just a thought about, like, in the little you heard him? Not if not, that's okay. I'm just throwing it out there, giving you an opportunity.
No, not really.
And that's okay. And that's all right. I mean, we listen to it, and I try and bring you into the fold here. But I was going to say is, I think the passing of Jim, the timing was kind of galvanizing to bring Browns fans together after just a week of fighting with players and each other. And, it sucks
more
when
than a week. I've said it on multiple places. Like, I don't even realize there's an election going on because Browns fans were going so hard at each other. That's what toxicity my timeline was flooded with is players going after fans going after players, Cleveland suing the Haslam suing Cleveland. It was just chaos. It was just anarchy and hatred and chaos.
It was nonsensical for a bunch of grown-ups. I mean, I just in the past week and change, I kind of limited my X time because it's just nonsense. It's just if you you're gonna fight with professional athletes, these people get paid millions of dollars to play a game, and I don't want to see all the fighting and name calling over something that's so inconsequential to your day-to-day life and living. And so the past 2-3 weeks I've been extremely limited in my time on there just because it's dumb. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, we're all going to be Browns fans anyway. So I don't know what everyone was yapping about. All of the same people who were like, boycott them, don't do this. They were watching. The stadium was full on Sunday. It was no more empty than it is on any other day.
Exactly.
And Deanna was just stop it. Just let's move on to the next topic, and then we win, and now all of a sudden everybody loves them again. We all
no problems. Everybody's celebrating.
It's we're all a bunch of teenagers breaking up and getting back together 700 times.
Silly.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so again, it's one of those things, kind of this sad event, plus the Browns win, kind of galvanized and brought things back together. My kind of thought is this. So first of all, also I should mention, if you didn't see, I guess Baker Mayfield even posted.
I saw that. I did see that. That was pretty beautiful.
That is. And I'm not the hugest Baker. I'm not like a Baker bro or, I'm kind of move on. It wasn't working here. Move on. We've moved on and screwed ourselves. It's okay. These things happen. But, Jim was synonymous with the Browns, synonymous with Cleveland. And we've been lucky as Cleveland fans to have the people we've had in our sportscasting, lifetimes. You talk about the Browns, you talk about Nev Chandler, Gibbs Shanley, and Jim Donovan, and Casey Coleman too. And the crazy thing is Nev and Casey both were taken from us too soon. And for the Cavs, having Joe Tate, and we were just so fortunate.
Fred McLeod. Listen, all I can say is put Tom Hamilton in a protective bubble and do not let anything happen to that man. Do not, because he will not be able to handle it if something happens to Hammy. Period. He cannot handle it.
Okay, wait a second. Might be some better talent on that Glen Oak dance floor than on the football field.
Well, I don't know. Did you not watch the game on Sunday? My God, was it a different team? I mean, I don't know if I don't want to steal your thunder and segue into but
yeah, and let's go. It was an amazing game. Let's talk about that. And hopefully my son's phone didn't die and he'll get back on with us. But that's okay. See, this is what's wrong with kids. They don't know how to use. They don't have their phones charged. I mean, how are you going to watch this thing on the phone? They don't have it charged.
Because you're on it all day long, and yeah.
It's supposed to be in school.
TikToks and their friends, and yeah.
I know. Okay, he's back. All right, so with the game. I mean, we talk about the crazy ups and downs of this team. Last year, Watson has this game in Baltimore, and everybody's like, "All right, is this what we're prepared for?" Boom, he's gone. We suffer through a couple weeks with with PJ Walker, TLR, a little bit. I mean, they coached.
He did okay.
They coached him through it, and
yes, they did.
So PJ Walker tried to throw it away into that meeting in the corner of the end zone for the 49ers. Jake Moody.
Yeah, he missed that field goal.
Yes, that was nice. But and then we get the Joe Flacco run. Just a crazy a crazy run by Joe Flacco, and then so it's like, okay, what are we going to go into this year? We had to start all over again. Kevin
Right.
Stefanski says we're going to fix the offense. It wasn't broken. It was working. What are you doing?
Right. We went to the playoffs with 3 backup quarterbacks. There was nothing broken about it.
And
The problem
very
was
old guy off the
Flacco
couch.
he was very likable though. And that was just a big problem for Deshaun Watson. So what do? They go out and get arguably a more likable quarterback in Jameis Winston, who it's impossible not to love the guy. He's infectious, whatever his play on or off the field. Like Deshaun Watson plays bad, and he's a terrible human being. He's not a good person. I mean,
No,
I'm not saying he committed crimes or didn't. I'm not getting into any of that. I'm just saying he's not a good person. But Jameis Winston, if he plays bad, you still like him. He's still fun. He's still a good guy. So I think that was a bad move on their part. If they were trying to placate Deshaun Watson, you go out and get someone who's even more likable.
Yeah, and I think that the idea, at least as far as I can tell, I know that the narrative was we can't have Flacco around because we don't want Deshaun looking over his shoulder. I think that the role that Winston plays versus Flacco are different. Flacco wasn't going to be a mentor. Winston doesn't mind it. He's like, yeah, whatever. And so then for them to change the offense, again, they tried to convert it and make it into something that would fit the skill set of Deshaun Watson, which at this point I think is zilch.
He doesn't have any, right? He's lost his mechanics. He lost his ability to make good decisions. He's lost his ability to throw the ball long and accurately. He lost his ability to run.
Right.
He doesn't have it anymore. And I think a lot of it is mental, but regardless of what it is, it's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So now he's out, and now we get Jameis. And that was night and day, was it not, guys? I mean,
yeah, for the first time this season, the Browns had an identity that even Mayor Bibb noticed and said on, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. He said the Browns don't have an identity, and all of a sudden, overnight, the Cleveland Browns have an identity. They seem like they're happy to play together on the field and play with each other, let alone the game, and work together to achieve something.
Absolutely. And you saw that. So you saw a team functioning well. The offensive line, which had looked horrific, even they protected well.
Yes, they did. They protected him.
The wide receivers got open and caught the
ball.
The separation. So I posted a video of, it was I guess if you would call it the game-winning touchdown drive.
Yeah. Yes, I saw that. I saw
that. So, but I'm watching, and I'm not going to lie. Like, the reason that I got such a good shot was because I saw him lined up, and I said, he's going to get separation just because of the angle. And I have the benefit of seeing the entire field. I can see everything where I was sitting. And I saw that route, and I'm like, oh, he's going to get separation. All Jameis has to do is thread it, and he did. And that's what we saw the whole game, though. We saw the wide receivers getting separation, and we saw Winston throwing the ball in stride. They didn't have to turn around. Right. They didn't have to bend down and scoop the ball to try to get these low passes. They didn't have to bat the ball down, to prevent an interception. Winston was throwing the ball in the numbers, in stride. And that's not something that we've seen all season long.
Well, we haven't seen it in years. And all the time that we've had that Watson has been under center, we saw it with Flacco. They could anticipate the player running the route. They weren't looking to improvise out there. He got rid of the ball, and that's also part of the reason that the offensive line looked better. Nick Chubb comes in. He's close. He's going to bust one. I have a feeling this weekend he's going to bust one. He's getting close.
He's getting close. He's getting close. We were there for his first touchdown.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was awesome. That was amazing.
So much fun.
Oh, it felt so good, didn't it? Because it was such a dark game. But just to see him that one felt good.
It was, and it was amazing. We tried to make him have to do it over and over again because
Right.
he keep getting stupid penalties. They really got to work on that.
Well, we even had some against Baltimore, but don't you think that having that passing game like we had on Sunday really opens? I mean, obviously, I'm stating the obvious, but it just really opens up that running game because we do have a talented running back core, and everybody kept saying it's so weak. No, we didn't have a passing game. So you didn't have a play action. You didn't have an O-line that was going to create holes. You didn't have I don't care what people said. You didn't have a mobile quarterback. Deshaun Watson just didn't look good. So if we're running the ball, they're going to sniff that out. They're going to stuff us every single time. But Sunday, we had that pass game going. So the defense, they couldn't stuff the box. They had to play back too. So we challenged their DBs. We challenged their interiors. We challenged their linebackers. We challenged everybody, and it worked.
No, exactly. And then that's the other thing to get to, because you talk about the offense and what worked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whose offense style was that?
That was Kevin Stefanski. That was not Dorsey.
Right. It
that
didn't matter who was calling the play. It was the execution.
Yes. That was no different than because that's another thing. And I did not argue with people because you're never going to win in an argument. But they're like, oh, that's what happens when you give up the play calling. I am not convinced that Dorsey was the one that was calling plays because that's Kevin Stefanski offense. It was no different than anything that we've ever seen from them. So it was just executed and there was protection.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you get to the back of your drop and the back foot hits and you throw the ball and you've made your reads, it makes it that much easier on everybody. I mean, look at this. The Browns hadn't scored 20 points all season. And in fact, what was it, Jacob, the stat you had? That the Browns not only were the only team through whatever week in the NFL.
Through week 7.
That hadn't
or
scored.
For like 5 weeks, I believe.
And it was not only that, it was like all of Division I college, all of Division II.
We were so bad.
It was horrific. It was a nightmare. It was a pink, to quote a Cleveland legend, it was a pink nightmare. It was all of a sudden we get rid of Cooper, right? And you're thinking, oh God, what's left of the wide receiver game?
About that, yeah.
And then look, Winston throws for 334, 3 TDs, 0 interceptions. And we're going to get to the 0 interceptions in a moment here. We've got an award for Kyle Hamilton to give him. Tillman, 7 receptions, 99 yards, 2 TDs.
2 touchdowns, yeah.
Good for him.
4.
Yeah.
85 yards, 8 receptions. The last time he looked this good, oh yeah, who was the quarterback?
Oh, I don't know.
Joe Flacco. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Jeudy, 5 receptions, 79 yards, and Njoku. Just consistent.
He had a tutty. Yeah, Njoku had that touchdown.
It was a beauty.
Oh my God, that one was
on the national broadcast. They kept calling him a safety blanket, which I thought was hilarious. They kept calling him Winston's safety blanket. And I'm like,
they're not. It's not far from the truth here. And so, with that kind of in mind, as we talk about Kyle, we talk about the Browns. I mentioned Kyle Hamilton. So it's at this point, we kind of decided, and we were thinking it was going to end up being who was the worst Cleveland Browns player, every week. But it's kind of changed. I mean, we actually had a good week. So I'm going to turn to Jacob here, and I'm going to screen share, and we are going to give out Jacob's Charlie Brown Award winner of the week here. And so I will turn it over, and there it is.
Right.
Jacob, why don't you tell everybody who is the Charlie Browniest player in this past Sunday's game?
It is Kyle Hamilton for the game-losing drop. So in the final drive for the Cleveland Browns on offense, we were driving around. Where are we? Around the 40-ish?
It was the play before the touchdown.
It was
the play before the touchdown. I'm not sure where we were, but around the 40-ish. He throws it right to Kyle Hamilton, and he dropped it.
And for that, Kyle Hamilton, you are the winner of the Charlie Brown Award for this past week.
Good grief.
It was we were watching it unfold, and when we saw it, we're like, well, we tried. It was a good game. And then he dropped it, and we were like, what just happened? It was almost like he was so shocked that the ball was thrown so perfectly to him that he was like, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah, it looked like he was the receiver on the play.
Yep.
Right.
Not the intended receiver. I believe that was more on that. Was that more on that?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, I think it was more.
But it was a terrible pass. And
I mean, yeah, there was no intended. Hamilton was the intended receiver.
Exactly. And I think Jameis said
no
after the game, basically, as soon as he threw that, he started praying.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, he's playing
I
that
can see
answer
him
pretty
saying
quickly.
that too.
So Kyle Hamilton wins the Charlie Brown Award for the week. Thankfully for
Hey,
us.
shout out to Tyreek Stevenson for the Bears celebrating, taunting the Washington crowd, and then tips the ball straight into Noah Brown's hands for the
That was amazing.
Isn't that awesome?
That was hilarious.
Dang, karma doesn't usually work that fast. Sometimes it doesn't work at all, but man, she got you.
Well, but remember, guys, the Chicago. I would say that is the Cleveland Brownsiest way to lose a game I've ever seen.
Yes.
It's right up there with
We have lost
No
that
doubt.
way.
Yeah, but do you remember in the Tim Couch era? And I'm showing my age here, but we were beating the snot out of the Bears in Chicago at Soldier Field. Guys, I guess on the sideline. Or the Browns thought it was over. They were busy using the bathroom on the sidelines. And suddenly the Bears score. They kick an onside kick. They get it back. They score again. We go to overtime and we lose. So I've seen the Bears. You know, I've seen some crazy things. I almost lost. I've told this story before, but I almost lost a job at Finish Line because of Dwayne Rudd. I may have been cursing after that. I was listening to the game on the radio and hearing the call from Jimmy D. Of Dwayne Rudd throwing his helmet and then Kansas City kicking the game-winning field goal on opening day. And I might have blurted out a few curse words. And as a manager, that was not appropriate.
No, that was frowned upon. That was a little frowned upon.
A little frowned upon. Might have had to call and give an apology. That was not a shining moment. It was not a shining moment for me for sure. They almost tried to say,
"You're fired."
Okay. But we survived that. But in the game, we didn't come out without any, come out completely unscathed.
Sure.
First of all, JOK gets injured and Denzel. Sounds like JOK is all right, but that looked like that was everybody. I mean, even watching it on TV on the replay, it looked like it was an MMA TKO there.
Mm-hmm. It did. He went limp.
He did.
He did. And like obviously it's hard to see it from the, you have the benefit of seeing it on TV and they play the replay. So we couldn't really completely tell. And we couldn't even tell who it was that had gone down. But instantly, as soon as he went down, the players were like, they saw instantly that he went limp and he went down. So they were calling immediately for someone to come out there, which I'm sure was terrifying,
Absolutely. And what a difference a week makes and a player makes.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you have that.
Yeah.
And did you happen to see, I didn't even catch what happened with Denzel.
Nope.
No.
It happened so fast. It didn't look like anything. It was honestly, it was like the Deshaun. I didn't even see. You couldn't even tell, like there wasn't a massive collision. You can hear those hits a lot. You couldn't even tell because we were there, we were watching and all of a sudden we get this alert and it says Denzel Ward, being evaluated. And I'm like, oh my God, no, not, obviously I'm a big Ohio State girl. And so Denzel's my guy and I love him so very much. He's probably my second favorite player on that team. And I think he needs to retire.
Okay, I was gonna ask. That was gonna be my next question. So first of all, Jacob, if you want to share, you could turn your phone. You could show Heather what's on your wall, and show her, what you got there. Or
I'm not jealous at all.
That's pretty cool.
And that.
No, I'm not jealous at all.
Yeah, I was
Super
fortunate
cool.
enough. I knew he was. I came into Cleveland for the ESPN Cleveland block
Mhm.
party and got the autograph card. And Jacob, from my father and stepmother for his bar mitzvah, got the Denzel Ward autograph jersey.
That is so cool. If
So-
we get to talk Ohio State, I'll tell you about my
Oh,
weekend.
we are going to. We are going.
Okay. I had a really good weekend at the shoe meeting some players. So
Oh, yes. I as I've seen, as you have shared, and I've seen that, and that is awesome. As someone you spilled the drink on, is this what I'm reading?
I didn't spill the drink. I'll tell that Lana did that. I'll tell the story though.
All right, good.
Denzel, we'll talk about my guy Denzel. I think he should retire.
Yeah, I mean, there was it's 6 concussions in his career, and so okay. Let me ask you this question because I thought about it. Back in the day, probably 70s, 80s, 90s.
Oh, they didn't care.
How often did they get the same amount of concussions, if
All
not
the time.
worse? They gave him smelling salts on the
Mhm.
sideline.
Mhm.
They went back into the game.
Right, give him a little ammonia.
Hey, Josh Allen
inhalant
did that a
and-
couple weeks ago.
Josh Allen?
Yeah, he took a big hit just smelling salts, and he's back in the game.
How did
But
he
they
get past
evaluate them now. And I think that we're seeing the effects of it with CTE. And I some of these players are terrifying. I don't want to name some names, but some ex-wide receivers need to stay off social media and get some medical help for their CTE.
Yeah, I think the initials are the same as our general manager.
Yeah.
Indeed. Mhm. Number 84. Yup.
Yeah, a little bit cray there, but
A little bit.
it is tough. It is tough to watch because I think Denzel. We have one of my friends, one of our regular viewers. He's not. He feels that Denzel Ward, even concussions aside, is not a good player. We argue that all the time. We argued that last week.
He's such a good player. The stats don't lie. The stats don't lie with Denzel Ward. He doesn't give up explosive plays. You find me a corner who is not going to give up yardage, who's not going to give up touchdowns, who's not going to give up some explosive plays. But Denzel Ward, by and large, is a yard for yard. I wouldn't say, lockdown corner, but he's pretty close. He's not a padlock, but he's a lock. Good. He's a key lock. He's good. He's going to get interceptions. I get it upsets me to hear people say, he's injury prone and he's made of glass, and you can't control a concussion. It is sometimes you just have to hit your head on a corner and it's a freak thing. So the man is prone to concussions, but that's
all right. So let me ask you this. Should he, if he continues to play, and I know I talked to my doctors, and
I know what you're going to ask.
Even with
the helmet?
Yeah, if he wore a Guardian cap, would that be
no?
Would you think?
I think it's a little too late, unfortunately.
Because what happens?
I think he might be predisposed to things like that, especially with how his father passed and the vasculature in his brain could be, maybe somewhat similar to, unfortunately, how his dad passed and
did
how
you stay at Holiday Inn Express, Sherry, or are you a doctor, or did you stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night? I don't know.
No, she's a scientist. No, I'm not kidding. This
I
is brilliant. So
I just because of to me 6 is a magic number. I think it's too little too late for him, unfortunately, and for him to live a normal, happy, healthy life
he's
forward. I'm sure, like Heather said, he's a great player and he's extremely talented and one of the best in the league, but he has to think about, well, number one, he has to think, and of course, who knows what his camps are saying, and forget it. He just needs to go strictly on data, and for him to have so many hits so young, I don't think it's worth it for the rest of his life. One more and he could be, a vegetable. I mean, and you don't want to do that to your family, and to succumb to, brain diseases that could.
And how many concussions did he have in high school? How many concussions did he have in college that went undiagnosed? And honestly, when he first came into the league, they weren't as, hyper aware of concussion protocol. It's only been the last couple of years, really, that they've been super hyper vigilant. And the science behind those helmets, I'm not saying they're not helpful. I'm just saying that the science behind those helmets doesn't mean that it's going to help him.
Well, exactly.
It's an added layer of potential protection, but like
you said, potential. It's a maybe word.
Yeah, and it's going to,
and it's brand new.
Right,
brand
it might lessen the impact, but it's if you're already prone and you've had it so much, it may not do any help. We'll see what happens with Tua.
Again, another I would.
He needs to retire, and that's unfortunate. It's because Tua isn't, he's in the middle of the pack, and to be in the middle of the pack in as a quarterback in the NFL, it means you're damn good. And it's just really unfortunate because the last concussion that he got.
Oof.
Yeah, and that's not the first time that's happened to him.
No, his hands and
that's
that was terrible. It was terrifying because of course there were 10,000 replays.
Of course.
I don't know, but that is not good. So, all right, let me ask you guys this, and we're going to lead into Jake's got a little bit of a mock draft for us.
Awesome.
He's going to be our mock draft expert here.
Fantastic.
Now what for the Browns? We're 2-6, and it's a steep climb to get back toward, being in the playoff conversation. And I guess, I don't know. You're going to play Winston right now until at least as long as he's doing all right. And then maybe DTR. But you got to think going forward here. You don't think there's any way possible, guys, that going into next season, the owners or the front office try to force the hand of Stefanski or force the coaches to play Watson? Is there any way on earth they could do that?
Not now. I don't think Watson comes back, if I'm being completely honest with you. He's this injury is, and I know that the surgery went really well, but I think it's in Watson's best interest to say, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and collect the remaining $100 million on my contract and go away quietly.
Right. And I think that going away quietly, I was just listening to an interview on Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show with Mary Kay, and she was talking about the salary cap hit. He may just have to be like kind of what they did in Houston that last year he was there, where he's like not with the team, because you can't just cut him. It's too much. It's too much. So you have to keep him. And I don't know if there's any clause where you can say, I'm retiring, and that gets you out of any salary cap ramifications.
Yeah, they did a restructure on his contract, so I'm not sure what the restructure, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't read a whole lot into it, because that's all.
Well, basically the thing is he's got the cap hit, especially if you do the dead cap, is where it's confusing. The bottom line is it would hamstring the Browns even further. And that's why you need to think about what do you do at the quarterback going forward, and how you really need to think about drafting one.
You do. It's going to be a strong draft class. It's going to be, maybe that's a good, segue into Jacob, your mock draft, but it's a strong draft class. I think quarterback wise, I think it is. I think it's going to be a really strong draft class.
Yeah, so. and with that, let us turn it over here to Jacob's mock draft. Now, this is just a small sample here from the first round, so I'm going to share this here with everybody. If I could do the right things, it would be even better. There it is. And so in this one now, Jacob and I talked about this a little bit before, and we looked, and according to NFL.com, I went on and they said based on strength of schedule, tiebreakers, the Browns still had the 4 pick. But everything that Jacob went to said they had the 8th pick. And with that, take a look here at the board. And Jacob and everybody, we look at this in this mock draft simulation. You see Shedeur Sanders going to Carolina, Jalen Milroe going 2nd.
That's Tennessee.
Then you see Carson Beck to the Jets. and Cam Ward to the Raiders. And so at that point, we now head to the podium here, and we have to the podium the Cleveland Browns. And with the 8th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, Jacob, the Cleveland Browns select
Quinn Ewers, quarterback, Texas.
All right, so
Ooh.
Jacob, at that point in this draft, you were down. You're already seeing a lot of quarterbacks gone there.
Yep.
Shador, Jalen, Beck, and Ward. And you're looking at it. Who else is left at that point, Jacob, besides Ewers?
So obviously we have Ewers, who I'm gonna put. I have some stats up. He's 130 completions on 188 attempts, 69.1% completion, 1,389 yards with a 7.4 average yards per pass. And then 14 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. All of this in 5 games.
Okay.
So I think he was the best option. The two other options, I thought Garrett Nussmeier,
Okay, from
280.
LSU.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, 208 completions, 333 attempts, 62.5% completion with 2,627 pass yards, 7.9 average with 20 touchdowns to 9 interception. Also played 5 games. And then Drew Aller from Penn State.
That's who I like.
Had 117 completions on 164 attempts, 71.3% completion percentage with 1,640 yards, a 10-yard average pass per yard per pass, and then 12 touchdowns to 4 interceptions in 5 games.
And you've got to look at Drew Lairs. You have to look at his supporting cast versus Quinn Ewers' supporting cast. He has no one. Drew has no one at Penn State. I mean, really, his wide receiving core is.
He's got Julian Fleming. Come on.
He's not doing well at all. I like Julian Fleming and I wish him well, but he's not doing well. Some people are calling him one of the biggest. I think he was a 4-star, 5-star busts that they've seen at that position, especially being, playing at Ohio State, which is arguably wide receiver now. And I just think that Quinn Ewers, just some interesting stats with him. When they played Texas, he was 25 of 43 for 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So in the one game that really mattered, he did not perform. Ewers did not.
You mean playing against Georgia, right?
Or Georgia, I'm sorry, yeah.
And that's an issue there. That is an issue.
So,
and I've had 3 guys out of, let's see, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 quarterbacks. I have 3 guys highlighted. Jalen Milroe, who is my number 1 quarterback. So you have the upside and that he's pretty good at passing, but he's also really good at rushing.
Yes, he is.
He has 380 yards on 102 carries, a 3.7 average per rush, and 12 touchdowns. But then that can also be twisted into a negative, and does that fit the Kevin Stefanski offense?
Yeah, I think it does, and I think that Jalen Milroe has just such a massive upside because he's learning a whole entire new offense this year.
Right.
And do I think that Alabama is playing good? Not great. No, they're very inconsistent. One week they're going to come out, they're going to be incredible, and honestly, one half they're going to come out and they're going to look like no one can beat them, and then they're going to come out in the second half, like in that Georgia game, and they're going to look like they are the most beatable team, in college football. But I think that Jalen Milroe probably doesn't love the offensive scheme. He doesn't look comfortable. He doesn't look like he's enjoying himself, but he's still going out there and performing. So I am with you, Jacob. I'm really high up on Jalen Milroe, really high up on him. I actually have him above Shador Sanders, but I think that Sanders is going to go just because of all the hype around him and what he's done. I still think that talent-wise, I think Jalen has a higher football IQ than Sanders.
Yeah, definitely. Another guy I have highlighted here is Cam Ward. He has the most yards out of the 7 guys with 2,746, and then the best touchdown to interception ratio with 24 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions, all in 5 games as well.
Hmm.
So I think he could also be another good option if maybe Milroe and Sanders are gone. Think he could be, a good third, fourth option maybe. And then the other guy, Drew Aller, there's not a lot of hype around him, and you
No,
can see him probably fall into the second round, which would be super interesting. Because if he is there and you're confident that you can maybe get Drew Aller there, he has the best completion percentage out of the three guys with 71.3%, and then also the best yards per pass of 10. So I think maybe this might be a guy you want to go for in the second round,
Mhm.
especially if maybe you have a mid first round pick. You find someone maybe on the offensive line. Both of your guards, Batonio and Teller, they're getting up there in age. And
and they
you drafted Zach Zinter, but that's only one
and
guard
they
He's
get
a
there.
Teller.
baby.
Teller.
He's a baby.
They move. They move a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, we're not going to ignore the elephant in the room. Jed Will stinks, and he's
Yes.
not after this
He does
year.
well.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
he was
I
not
think
playing. He
the
didn't play on
Dewan's
Sunday.
better than him at left
Yes,
tackle.
that is an excellent
And
observation.
Dewan played. Dewan played on Sunday, and then
He
Jed
sure
Wilson
did.
didn't. And then all of a sudden,
Good stuff happened when
Good stuff.
guards guard and block and do their job.
isn't that how that works, Sherry?
It is
Wild.
It is amazing when they do their job. So
Mhm.
yeah, I like what you did there, Jacob. And
Yeah.
I think that
Good stuff,
potentially,
Jacob.
depending upon where we end up in the round, might also dictate what we end up doing. I mean, I don't want them. My initial thought, I got to tell you, was like, okay, just to lose, go down in flames. We need a quarterback no matter what. But I'm always going to be cheering to win. I mean,
For
honestly,
sure.
I am. And so I guess let me ask this question, guys. If you had a crystal ball and you knew that the Browns were not going to make the playoffs this season, would you rather have them be entertaining but be awful, getting a high draft pick, or would you rather they get a few more wins but not enough to make the playoffs? I'm going to go around the room. Heather, what say you?
I don't like the losing on purpose. I think that college now is so loaded with talent that it doesn't matter where you draft anymore. It does matter up to a point, but college is so loaded with talent that I don't love the lose on purpose mentality, because you still need to play for next year. We still have a lot of these guys on contract, and if Winston goes and he plays fine, then maybe we don't need a quarterback in the first round. Maybe we need to look at the second round. So that's you need to keep developing these players, and you keep trying to win every week.
Yep. And Sherry, what about you? What say you?
Being a cantankerous old Jew that I am going to take the Converse, and I'm going to go. It's going to be entertaining as hell to watch them lose. Let's get a draft pick.
I love it. I love it.
That was fantastic. All right, Jacob, you've got youth on your side.
Mm-hmm.
I like entertainment. Look, if you can get both the entertainment value of watching Jameis throw for a couple hundred yards and then also like couple of picks every game and still get a nice draft pick, awesome. I'll take it.
All right, that is fair. That is fair. Okay. Well, Jacob, I appreciate you giving us your insight. If you'd like to check out now, you may. As we are going to move on to a little bit of Buckeyes talk here, because Heather, you do love the Buckeyes, according to you.
She does
a little bit, and I think we've got an interesting matchup. So, Jacob, thank you very much for all your insight and joining us as always.
Yeah, Jacob, thank you so much. That was cool.
Great meeting you, Jacob.
Yep. Thank you as always. Yep. That's it for me.
All right, I'll see you later. We'll see you around the house, okay?
All right.
All right, guys. So, okay, moving on to the Buckeyes. They get a win over Nebraska on Saturday. It wasn't the most impressive victory of all time there, and I don't know, Heather, you were there, and first of all, talk to me. So You got to meet a lot of players. Got some players.
I did get to meet a lot of players. So the 2014 national title team was there apparently, and I did not know that. And we just happenstance, just kind of luck, and honestly, just from being nice on X, and people recognizing us. And so we were in that area at one other tailgate waiting for her sister-in-law, and we got invited to go to another tailgate, and it just so happened to be Zach Boren's tailgate.
Oh,
Zach
wow.
and Jacoby Boren. And we're standing there, and I'm like, I think that's Spencer. And I was like having heart palpitations, and I'm like, I know. And they're like, oh yeah, Evan Spencer was on the job. I'm like, I know who he was. He threw the pass, at the end of the second half. He's the one that threw that touchdown pass. So no, I know exactly who Evan Spencer is. So we met him. We met so Jeff Ironman. I'm like, I really want to meet this guy. He's so tall. He was a tight end. He played on that team as a tight end, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I need to get a picture. So I set my high noon down, and Lana's taking the picture, and then she goes to move forward, and she kicks it. She kicks the hole, and it was full. She kicks the whole cup, spills it on her shoes,
oh no,
spills it on all over his shoes, and you could see she's just horrified. We're laughing at her, and she's like, "I'm so sorry," and he's like, "I have a 2 and a 5-year-old at home." He said these shoes have about a week shelf life left.
Nice.
Down,
That's cool.
and he starts
Super
helping
cool.
her clean her shoes off, and I'm like, how does this even happen to us? Like, how do we fall into these situations? So, and then Damon Arnett. So I don't know if you guys remember Damon Arnett. He had some struggles in the NFL. That same year
He did.
that same year that Ruggs had his little incident.
Yes.
Damon Arnett got arrested on drug charges and gun charges, and it was pretty serious. But seeing him there, it really looks like he's turned his life around, and he was so cool and just so chill and just so normal, and he, it was really nice to see. It was just really nice to see him. I was very excited, and he had the goofiest smile. He was like the biggest goofball, and you just couldn't help but love him. So I was like, Damon Arnett.
That is fantastic. That I know my niece is a sophomore at Ohio State.
Okay.
And she goes there early and does the thing to get people painted, and
Yeah.
And I guess she's got a picture. She ran into Archie Manning.
Yeah,
Archie
Griffin was there.
I'm like,
I have a picture. I didn't post it, but I have a picture. I was like, from me to my computer here, Eddie George.
Oh wow!
But it was really hard to get to him because there were so many people around, and there were so many people that wanted a piece of him. But he was so nice. Oh my God, you couldn't have scripted. It was just, we were in the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
so
that is amazing. That is on my bucket list to get with my kids. I have never been to an Ohio State
Oh
game.
no, it's my second game this year. I took my dad. Yeah, I've taken my dad to the opening game every year for the past, I think, 3 years. So that's our tradition. And getting into it. So Lana and I were really close. We were 5 rows out from the 20-yard line, and so we could see a lot. And I'm going to say a couple of things about Ohio State.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And I'm going to come across as probably a homer, but I would say this about honest to God, I would say this about a Georgia. I would say this about an Oregon, any team. Fans, when you're ranked that high, fans expect you to go out and win every single game by 30 points. We went on the road and lost to Oregon by 1 point, who happens to be the number 1 team in the country. We had a bye week. We struggled against Nebraska. We did. We looked flat. But sometimes I think those games are just as important as the 30-40 win blowouts, because the 30-40 point win blowouts, because you're not going to get better if you are not doing anything wrong. Right. You're not going to,
self-evaluate.
Yeah, poor Denzel Burke. He's
struggling. He's struggling.
He's struggling. And I will tell you, there was a play at the beginning. I think maybe it was the second quarter, and he got cooked. He got cooked like a gas grill. It wasn't a charcoal grill. He got cooked like he was a gas grill, man. But it was a drop ball. The Nebraska receiver dropped the ball, and if he hadn't, that would have been a big play. And I'm not sure what's going on with Denzel. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know. They're not going to tell us. They're not going to tell us, you don't know what he's going through personally. I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but it does not look the same. And Igmanosin, he's not looking so good. So it's like they're off kilter a little bit, but I also think that we have a tendency, and I think every team is guilty of this, is playing to the level of their competition. So I don't think that we were taking Nebraska too seriously. And it just didn't look like we were giving everything, they weren't running hard. They weren't, it just looked like they were flat all around. And it didn't look like anybody had super high energy. So
it was not good. And I'm concerned about there are a couple things that I'm mostly concerned about.
Oh, the offensive line. Hope that's
bingo. You nailed it. And we don't know what's going on with Zen Michalski.
No.
He sounds like he should be Jewish because he's got
he does.
There's a lot of phlegm in that.
I can't say that because I'm not Jewish, but I will laugh at your joke because you guys can say that.
Exactly. And obviously losing in the trenches has been a big problem for this team over the past few years. We changed to this speed type operation,
right.
and it's tough when you get up against these teams with size like Michigan. Michigan destroyed us, not all because of Connor Stallions, but they also
it wasn't all because of that. Honestly, it was because we got cooked when we got burned with the big plays. And it's gonna sound like, oh, you're a real freaking genius, Heather. But you take those big explosive plays out of the equation. We were bending, but we weren't breaking at that point. You can't give up that many. You cut the explosive plays in half, and we win those games. Right. We get too many of. We did it with Oregon. We do that with Oregon, and I'm not on the fire Ryan Day train. I'm not there.
What about Jim Knowles?
No, I'm not there. Who else are you going to get? No, but who are you going to get? That's. Look at.
I don't know. Give me back Greg Schiano. Call up Mike Vrabel. Let's go. Look,
Mike Vrabel.
Let me say this.
A little busy.
I hate the Big 12 coordinators. The Big 12 sucks. Okay, their defense is awful.
Well, they don't even exist anymore.
The Big 12 does.
But you know what I'm saying. They don't even exist anymore. They're not relevant anymore. Yeah.
But that's where Jim Knowles came from, and I have no faith in that. Where was the pressure on Dylan Gabriel? The guy stood back there, read a magazine, read War and Peace, and never got touched, and he looked all over the field, and we would have gotten toasted even worse if not for the guy spitting in the face of Igmanosin. That was a tough matter. I mean, it was crazy. And I was were you just as upset as I was, Heather, about the fact that people were giving such crap to Will Howard and Ryan Day for that last play? He slid. I mean, I get it, but I was mad, but I'm like,
That's the way I felt. That's exactly the way I felt. I felt like, okay, well, that's a bummer to lose the game this way.
Yeah, and especially in the expanded playoff now. It's not as big of a deal. And you talked about having the close losses and kind of building the character. What about the 2002 team?
Well, the 2002 team went, they were undefeated, but their wins were, Holy Buckeye, Purdue.
Exactly.
Their wins were extremely close wins. Now, I'm going to say something controversial.
Okay, you do it.
It was a Jim Tressel coached team, but it was not Jim Tressel's players. So that showed that was Cooper's players still, right? Was it because we fired Cooper and hired Tressel?
No, it was already Cooper was fired. This was the best thing. My first weekend after college graduation in December 2000, working at the radio station. And I was the news director, which was the most ridiculous title ever. There was no news going on there. I was pulling stories from the newspaper. Let's be honest here.
All right.
So and I could pull clips and highlights, but one of the things was John Cooper after the bowl game, he got fired.
Yeah.
So I think it was maybe that might have been Tressel's second season. So some of those players, but he had Mo Claret.
Well, he did have Mo Claret, and I actually have, so where I lived then is where I worked. I worked at this little place called the Hot Dog Shop in Warren, Ohio. And that's where Maurice Claret went to school. He went to Harding.
Right.
So when Claret was getting recruited, for whatever reason, he brought every single one of the coaches into the hot dog shop. That's where he brought them to take him to dinner. It's this little shamble hot dog joint, and everybody loved it. And I got a gazillion autographs. And I remember when Lloyd Carr came in and everyone was like, "Are you going to get Lloyd Carr's autograph?" And I'm like, "I would rather die." There is nothing that you could ever do. So that was an interesting, we all knew he was going to go to Ohio State because, you followed him. He was such an incredible talent. So yeah, that was Tressel's guy. But
a lot of it was the prior class.
Mike Doss, Chris Gamble. Chris Gamble has to be probably, if I had to pick two favorite players, you're gonna laugh at my second one. But Chris Gamble was my first favorite player ever. Best two-way player, I think, to ever play the game. And you're gonna laugh. Chimdi Chekwa.
I follow Chimdi Chekwa. Can we get some Mike Nugent love here?
Yeah, so Mike Nugent never missed. Mike Nugent never, ever missed. He never missed.
And then he played for the Bengals.
He did play for the Bengals, and then he started missing when he played for the Bengals.
Oh, good. Well, there you go. That's what happens.
Yeah.
But no, it's a crazy season. So let me say
let
this.
It just play out. Let it just play out. We have to beat Penn State. And that's where we're at right now. Unfortunately, now we're in a must-win because of Indiana.
Yeah, what's that all about?
I have no idea. Ranked 13th, undefeated, won last week convincingly with a backup quarterback. Like, what is even happening?
I don't know. We will really see what kind of medal this team has coming out. We don't know what the status is of Drew Aller, but what we do know is James Franklin is.
He's also Ryan Day's counterpart in ranked matchups. Ryan Day isn't any better. He's
a little bit better. Well, okay. Well, James Franklin is 1-9 against Ohio State, so that's also
against Ohio State,
right?
But Ryan Day is like 1-7 or something against top 10 matchups or top 5 matchups. So Ryan Day is not much better when it comes.
He's also.
Yeah, he is. It's just I do think that Ryan Day is a better coach in those types of, I don't think that James Franklin gives up. I just think that his play calling gets soft. Sometimes I wonder, about his last year when we played Penn State. They were running the ball down our freaking throat. Yep. They were running it down our throat. 4th down in the 4th quarter and they pass it and I'm like, "What? You guys have been running it down our throat the whole game." So no, I'm not a couch coach, but
You're not.
We are. That's my burn. That's my burn.
No, I hear you, and it's gonna come down to the trenches, and let's see what happens with Drew Aller.
It's a running game.
Yeah, and I think that
you gotta get that going again.
Oh, 100%. And I think that Penn State, if as you talked about it, one thing is they don't get as good of recruits as say Ohio State, Michigan, and the likes. And you know what? And Sherry, as you are a UM person, I want to give I actually have more respect for this team than last year's team.
Well, because they're out there playing and they're not
busting their tuchuses.
And for all of the hate that they're getting, they're
they have to brush that off because they're still children. People forget they are giant children.
Oh, okay,
and they shouldn't have to.
So Sherry,
have that.
I actually said that, Sherry. I said that in one of my God, the hate that I got for that people were so upset that I was calling them children and kids. I'm like, they are kids. For me, they are kids. I don't care if they're 20, 21 years old. Yes. They're still not fully developed yet.
They can't rent cars yet. They cannot rent cars.
They can't rent an Airbnb. They look big. but they're still babies. So
Yeah,
yeah.
agreed.
So anybody that's going to go after a player, you can go after the coaches. You can say
the coaches.
man, this game sucked, and you can say the coaches didn't call a good game, but to go after, and hate the player, I'd like to see. I said some, I'd like to see your, large behind get out there and do some of these things that they're doing.
Sure.
I said you're sitting on your couch stuffing your face full of pizza rolls, yelling into TV while they're actually, they're out there actually executing.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. It's hard for people, I think, sometimes to separate. And the argument nowadays, oh, well, they're getting paid NIL money, so I have the right to basically.
No, you don't. They're kids.
No, they
don't
are.
Make the rules. They don't make the rules.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, okay, here's my last Ohio State question as we head into the big game and we look ahead at the season. And I don't want to look far ahead, but Heather, do you think Will Howard can guide the team?
I do. I think
all the way to the promised land.
I do. I think Will Howard's a leader. I think that he has enough experience under his belt. He's a fifth-year senior. Right. And, I think that he's got that hunger to go out on top, and he has the talent around him. So I do like Will Howard. I think he's going to be just fine. He's got the arm strength. He can run. He's a decent decision maker, and he's a good leader. So yeah, I think he can. Yeah,
that's obviously important. So I think that they obviously they've got to make sure the offensive line is playing better, and they need to get they need to get some pressure on defensive line, front four, that sort of thing. So quickly here, want to turn to the Cavs because they started 4-0.
Beat the Knicks last night.
I mean, what a game last night. So
Darius Garland, 34.
That it's unreal. It really.
I know.
And so is it all the coach?
I think that it is 50% the coach because I think that they're buying into it. Donovan Mitchell stayed because of Kenny
Atkinson.
Yeah. I think that Donovan got the coach that he wanted, and when Donovan's happy, I think that the team follows suit. He's not like a LeBron where he's such a diva. I think that Donovan is such an infectious, nice, good personality, good leader. He's not going to lose his mind like LeBron. He's not a whiner. And I love LeBron. I'm just saying, I love LeBron. I have nothing but good things to say about him, but he is a diva and Donovan isn't. So the team goes as Donovan goes. Donovan's happy with the coach. I think everybody is. And look how he's using Mobley.
Yep, absolutely. Are you guys going to get over to Romo Fijo?
I should. I have no reason not to go.
Yes, you need to get over there. And I mean, look, you know who's coming in tomorrow?
LeBron and Bronny. Yes, that's crazy because, this is Bronny's debut where he grew up and watched his dad play.
Exactly.
Wild.
It is. It really is. I got to say, as Sherry, as you and I were talking, I've been here in Virginia for 23 years.
Yeah.
I moved the summer before his rookie season, LeBron's rookie season. So I think I've only gone to one game. I went to one of his Cleveland Cavs games, his entire career in Cleveland. So that's kind of sad there. I wonder if he'll ever get a bad statue like Dean Wade.
God,
Dwayne Wade.
Yes.
He will. They'll put a statue up of him. He'll have two. He'll have one, and he'll have three. He'll have his own terrible one in Miami. We'll pay for a good one. We can't.
Right.
But Miami
championship.
Won't. Yeah, Miami won't though. Dwayne Wade deserved better.
He did. I don't know. That can't be. That thing is.
It's so bad. They have to take it down. It is. It's like Cristiano Ronaldo's. You remember how bad his bus was?
Yes. I remember.
I feel like they find these people on Discount Andy's list or something. Because it is, wow, there's so many talented people out there. And to just check somebody's portfolio out before you hire somebody is not hard to do.
It's just not. Someone knew someone.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
So bad that it's hilarious, though, all the memes that are coming out of it.
That is the only
silver lining.
That is a silver lining. If I were talking to him, this is what I would tell him.
You stink.
Yeah.
And then after that, I would say,
you're fired.
As well as
you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I have a lot of those things, but I think the Cavs are going to be a very entertaining group this season, very exciting, and hopefully they can bring as much joy to the Cleveland fans and just fun as the Guardians did. And Heather, I was going to ask you, you were at that miracle game.
I was.
How amazing was that to be in the crowd watching that? I mean, I'm at home screaming, and Jacob's upstairs, and he comes down, and we're watching the extra innings together. Unreal.
It was hands down, and I know we didn't win the series, but it was hands down the best game that I've ever been to. And I've been to a lot. I've probably been to hundreds of games.
You are living my best life.
I was at the JCC.
Hey,
I had the TV on. We gathered round.
Nice.
Yeah,
oh,
I was in a suite. I was actually in a suite for that game. So it was unbelievable. And of course I was outside, because I'm like shaking and like, are we going to do this? And just to hear the crack of the bat. And then you saw the bat flip because he knew, it was the, Johnsky Noel in the ninth inning with the bat flip. And then, it was so cool. It was so cool to be there. So I've been at some pretty exciting games. That's the second most exciting game I've ever been to. So
what is number one?
It was in was it 2000? What's the first time that we made it to the NBA Finals?
Oh, I guess it was 14. It was 14.
No, it was LeBron's first jaunt with us. We had Daniel.
07.
07, yeah, 7-7. And that was game 6. And they were playing Detroit, and we were up 3 games to 2, and we won. We won in
Booby.
Yeah, Booby Gibson went nuts on the 3. So we were there to see them clinch the Eastern Conference Finals.
Oh, so, that is amazing. I mean, it's fantastic. Now, Sherry, we got to get. I think you said, have you not been to a Gardo's game?
Never. That might be my shtick. I'm like, I'm never gonna go.
I'll get you. I'll get you there. I did not do that. I will get you there. Sure.
Never been.
I'm saying it online. I'm saying it in front of everybody. And yeah.
You got to get to a game. I mean,
sure.
Obviously, it's more fun when they're winning. And as I'm an old fart and remember watching them on WUAB channel 43 and watching them with like 2 fans at Municipal Stadium and hearing Jack Corrigan. And
Mike Keegan and Jack Corrigan. I would have been there.
And touch them all time.
Yeah, touch them all time.
Touch them all time as opposed to touch them all the time.
No.
It was touch them all time. So we would buy the worst seats. My dad would buy us the worst seats that you could possibly get. And there were literally 27 people there. So you would just walk down and the ushers didn't care.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you would just walk down and it was cool. They stunk, but
and the unmistakable smell of the stadium, the stale beer and cigarette smell.
Yeah, because you in the stadium, you could smoke in there. And I remember being, when we started to get really good, when it was Jacobs Field, and they would. It was, I still loved them when they were bad, and I stayed loving them when they were really good. And I can just remember I was a teenager. And, all these girls have this, Tiger Beat, magazine, all of the actors and stuff. My wall was plastered with Manny Ramirez because I was obsessed with Manny Ramirez. I loved Manny Ramirez. He was my guy. So I had a friend whose dad had season tickets. And so I got to go between 95 and 98. I got to go.
That's amazing.
Because I knew baseball. And they had 4 tickets and they never could find a 4th. So they would either, I would go with just his dad sometimes.
Nice.
It would just be like, Dave can't go. Do you want to go with me? And you're like my second dad right now. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that is fantastic.
It was cool.
That is really awesome. I was fortunate to have some friends who had their families had a few shekels in their bank account and had season tickets and got to go to the Terrace Club. And
that's where I was. That's where he had tickets in the Terrace Club. So we probably were there.
The Terrace Club is gone. It's no more.
No, I know. It's boarded
up.
Well,
they're doing that part of the
remodel. Redoing it. Yeah, it was all boarded up when I was there at the game the other, that last game.
All season, and
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
wow, fantastic. Well, we've had a lot of fun here.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I wanted to give everybody an opportunity here because I like to vent on the show a little bit, and part of the reason that the title is Going Nuclear is because, well, sometimes you have to go nuclear about what's going on in Cleveland sports and around the world and in life. And the full blown coverage, that was mostly when I started that because Joe Woods was terrible and we often had blown coverage. So
Mm.
kind of a play on words there. So at this point, I just want to offer you guys, give you an opportunity. Sherry or Heather, do either one of you have something you'd like to tell everybody that has you going nuclear?
I mean,
Heather,
I don't even know where to start. I thought about this. So my going nuclear thing is probably it's a twofold thing. It's everybody is a Monday morning quarterback on X. Everybody thinks that they can go out there and they can call plays better. And when we're running the ball, why aren't we passing the ball? And we're passing the ball, why aren't we running the ball? And it just aggravates me because then if you say something, this is like going into the second thing. If you say something, then, you're going to get such vitriol and such hatred and such, and definitely not playing a victim because I am not a victim. I can hold my own. But sometimes, being a woman on that platform and loving sports as much as I do, I get some pretty god awful messages. So to all of you, basement dwelling couch coaches, shut up.
Beards? Do they have neck beards?
Yeah, shut up. They I don't know because they hide behind a picture. They hide behind a fake name in a picture for their ad because they can't show their stupid faces. Just stop talking. Nobody wants to hear your dumb opinion. So let the adults handle it.
And, wow, I'm right with you. I'm right with you there. Fantastic, Sherry. Anything that you'd like to share that has you going nuclear? Bad pickles at the deli?
Oh, well, no, the pickles at the deli have been fair. They've been fair.
Pretty good? Just fair?
Just fair. Well, they're cheaping out and they're going more so half sours than anything else. I know, half sours.
What's the deal with that? But is there anything that you'd like to share that has you going nuclear? Anything else that you would like to share?
Again, to kind of piggyback on what Heather said, just on our beloved X platform that we torture ourselves with.
Yes.
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 Mentally torture ourselves with. Besides, not just the sports teams being, for placating that and whatnot. But how about if Browns fans were just nice to other Browns fans? Because how hard we're cheering for the same team. Why divide when you can unify is what always got me. I never experienced anything like this before in my life, and I've lived all over the country, and Browns fans unite, not just when somebody dies.
Mm-hmm.
It should be all season. We're all a fan of the same exact team.
Yeah.
Come together.
Come together. No, I completely agree and concur. And I think that the types of things that we see that play out before our eyes on social media simply used to play out in guys yelling at each other in the bar, and then there was a bar fight, and it was all good. And I think that basically now the social media has allowed everybody to voice their own opinion
while drunk.
Right, and behind the guise of anonymity and with no repercussion.
Exactly. You can be a loudmouth and all that stuff. So I 100% agree with your take on that, Sherry, and thank you for that. So what has me going nuclear, as I mentioned, as we kind of got started a little bit here, it's called this thing Dia de Muertos.
Yes.
Dia de Muertos. It has me going nuclear. You know why it has me going nuclear?
Why?
Why?
It has me going nuclear because my son, boy is in the 9th grade, and the Spanish teacher thinks that it's very important. Ah.
It is. Day of the
No.
Dead is very important.
All right, but wait a second. So what has me going nuclear is this chowderhead teacher thinks it's so important. I got to bake something. I got to make something homemade. He's got to honor a relative. What am I
Matzo brie. Matzo brie.
Well, it has to be so the person he's honoring is my grandfather, his great grandfather, who he never met. And of course, we've come up with some very funny stories. Some of them less appropriate than others. I mean, he did always say, to my brother, "Oh, Ethan, you tell me if that Dano boy is bothering you, and I'll smash his face in."
Oh, no. If he says that, he'll get suspended.
I really start to question when, and it's not just this particular teacher, but when teachers seem to think that everything they do is the most important, and it's not just the child that's affected.
Right. It's the whole family.
The whole family. Do you know how hard it is in Richmond? I can't find a Manischewitz honey cake because that's what I'm going to send in with it. Make a Manischewitz honey cake because my grandfather would make that. My grandfather
if I only knew, I could have FedExed you some.
I've still got a week. I got a week.
You let me know.
And then I told Jacob, I'm like, you can't take in the Manischewitz wine. Mm-mm. That's not going to work. But I'll give you some Kedem grape juice. We'll take some Kedem grape juice, or maybe I could give you some tea in a filthy glass because my grandfather couldn't see very well, macular degeneration, and he did have some. And so there will be things that he writes that, and the teacher's going to be like, is this guy for real?
Oh, yeah.
For real? He told my brother, and I'll share this story because this is you gotta love him. Again, couldn't see very well. He made Heather. The Hebrew word or Yiddish word for cookie is kichel, like Kichel, right?
Okay. But you have to put the
kichel, right?
Okay.
Well, my grandfather would bake these. Now, first of all, I realized later in life that it was just really not cool because he would put them in a grocery bag, like directly, and then give them to us. And you think about what's in the grocery bag.
That's why COVID didn't kill us because we had stuff like that.
Right. Second of all, his kitchen was not very clean.
Right.
But then my brother is like, they get the kickles and he's looking and there's some spots on it. I think I made this batch with raisins in it. That's mold. Grandpa, this cheese has mold on it. The cheese sandwich. Oh, there's the Hakua lady. This guy was, You yell at the rabbi and say, "Come on, rabbi. Move it, lady." And there's, but again, I'll say this as much. At least it's been an opportunity to share some of the stories. But again, what gets me going nuclear is when teachers, they want the students to do things and do these activities, and they don't realize that it's not just the student who has to do it. It's the parents. Right. And I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for that. And so, and in this instance, it is Dia de Muertos.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's a good thing, but I've got to find the Manischewitz honey cake mix. I got to find the giant Kedem. Maybe go to Costco.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do have it at Costco in a 2-pack, I believe.
I don't think. Now, Heather, did you know this? And Sherry, this might be unknown to you. Did you know? Have you heard of the brand Mogan David?
Yes, I have.
Do you know that? Think about those initials. Think about a drink you might have had when maybe you were a little underage or in college, Heather.
Mogan Mad Dog?
MD.
Why did I? Oh my God! Though I am so horrified at myself that I know what Mad Dog is, and I picked it up immediately. I'm like, Mad Dog.
Mogan David makes Mad Dog.
Okay. I knew that. I don't know where I picked that up along on the zeitgeist, but I knew that, and it was hilarious the first time I learned it. I didn't have anybody else to tell. I'm like, okay, nobody else will find this funny.
Yeah, no, I find it funny and a little bit embarrassing because
it's all good. Well, it's no more embarrassing, Heather, than when my brother and his friends, they had a group that maybe they played poker, and some guy brought over some wine. Hey, I got the fancy stuff, the screw top Manischewitz. Yeah, if only
we'll have to do another podcast where we just tell stories.
Hey, I'm all about that. I would
too. I think it would be fun.
I absolutely anytime. And guys, Sherry, Heather, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being on. You are
Thank you.
always welcome to be on the podcast. I loved it. This was informative and fun, and we got a lot. We didn't quite solve all the world's problems, but we've solved a few about Monday morning quarterbacks, the Browns,
Right.
etc. It's all good. So again, thank you so much, and everybody, let you guys say goodbye there. Thank you for being on.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
thank you
having
so
us.
much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
check us out on check us out on Bougie Sports at Bougie Sports, and check out my podcast. Ethan, I would love to have you on my college football podcast. So
Well, thank
I
you.
will.
I'm in.
I'll reach out to you, and we'll set up some time. So, and Sherry, maybe the three of us do it, and I think it would be a really good time.
It would be a hoot. I'm a storyteller, at least if nothing else.
Mhm.
My daily adventures are a little bit limited now that I work at home. But
I work at home too, but I still find ways to get out there and be a lot.
yeah, I yell at people a lot. I call people and they're clearly not and they're just not very smart, and they can't understand a word I'm saying, and so I have to yell at them. And
Okay.
We're gonna have stories. We got stories. So yeah. So I will. Yeah. So check us out. Check us out on the college pod, and Ethan and Sherry will have you guys on.
Yep, and Sherry, tell everyone about
Yes.
what your upcoming shows tomorrow night.
Tomorrow
Awesome.
night.
Sherry's shows are awesome.
They are.
9:15 Breezy Browns talk with myself. I'll have Lauren D from Lauren Dodge. She'll be on, and we'll be discussing what we discuss on the night before on Devil's Night.
Yes.
And so that'll be. I know Pinky's out in.
Could it be?
Right. So we'll be witchy women having a witchy good time. And Friday nights with my
Captain
emotional
Lou Hey.
my emotional support wrestler, Lou Marconi. We do Burning Rivers Browns talk every Friday night, 9 p.m.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again both for being on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, for Sherry, for Heather, I am Ethan Greenberg, and you've been watching Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land.